So thank you very much for these very interesting talks. So we will be taking questions now from the audience.
Thank you very much. I have a question for Junji regarding the income satisfaction. I find that very interesting because it looks like there is a positive effect in the short run, but not in the long run, right? So is that short run pure expectations, or is there something in the country context that I should know, like a lot of monetary gifts, etc.?
I think it's pure expectation that maybe someone can take care of parents in the future, but then they found out that maybe negative impact associated with having sons dominates such kind of expectation later in life.
And do you have any idea about, if you were to look at monetary data, whether parents are, I'm just talking about cultural context, would a son actually pay for the parents in the long run? So should it be financially
beneficial? It was the case before, but I've heard it's changing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on Sonia's, because, to Junji. Yeah, so you have this short-term effect for sons, and that you answered her that are related to expectations. But I was interested that you didn't mention so much this effect on the long run. If it's related, for example, to also the concept of care, and because of the other presentation discussing loneliness at older ages for women, if this is somehow the fact that on the short run they have this expectation of the financial returns that a boy could offer, but on the long run they see that daughters offer this more care, which is connected to their well-being in older life, or if not.
Yeah, I've heard Korean society has changed gradually, and then that now some preferences really actually doesn't exist anymore. Maybe that's because they found out daughters can take care of parents better than sons. So in that sense, maybe you are right.
Thank you. I have a question for Thijs. I find your research very interesting, and I wonder if you factor in the effect about migration, which is tremendous in Eastern Europe, particularly for the past generations of people who are now, let's say, 20 to 40 and even 50. Those people have migrated a lot, so I wonder if you're capturing the effect of larger family size, or if you're capturing the fact that people with more children are more likely to have some children that are still there, so that are left behind. Yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts about this. So I have other questions, but...
Yes. That is a very good point, and I thought we were not able to take this into account, because it's true that this comes up more often, that indeed many older people in Eastern European countries have children who migrate to the West, and this actually could be a mechanism explaining our findings, and maybe there are actually ways to look into it, and it's a good suggestion. I think we'll have a look at that. Thank you very much.
I've got a sort of omnibus question, but let me go with it. It's mostly for Thijs, but a little bit for Junji as well. So there are some things that I think have been shown, and I don't believe. Some things I believe that have not been shown. This loneliness, I actually believe. I've always thought that it's because of smaller family sizes. We're going to have an upcoming loneliness crisis in Europe, at least. But I'm a little distressed by the fact you split the sample male-female. If most couples are men and women, there should be no difference between the two. And if there is a difference between the two because men die off and women are widows, then you probably need control. So I was a bit kind of unclear about what the rationale for doing that was. Along the same lines, and this is where Junji comes in actually, according to what Junji is saying, the same sex for the first two children is actually not a monotonic thing relative to separate sex. So in that case, you haven't got a very good first stage of your estimation because you're mixing up the treated with the untreated, actually. You've got 3 different groups, so you want to have daughter-daughter, son-son mixed. And I was wondering whether that's why your first stage might not be very good. And that's potentially reflected in the fact your standard errors are almost 30 times larger in the IV than they are in the OLS, which usually is a bit of a sign that we can't pin anything down very well in the first stage. So anyway, I was reflecting on all those things. Maybe you should pull, maybe you should have controls, maybe you should change the instrument. I was just wondering what you thought about, but maybe what Junji thinks about that as well. What should we all be doing?
Yeah, so thank you very much. I'm not sure if I got everything of your question here, but splitting the sample, let me go into that first. Well, we also have analysis where we did not split the sample, and actually then we find results that are consistent with the, well, maybe slightly smaller effect size, but consistent with what we found for women. Well, at least descriptive research tends to suggest that children are more important for, well, loneliness or depression or something for women than they are for men. And so that was actually the rationale for splitting up the sample. But if we would not, actually, I would have an easier story to present and just say that there is a positive overall effect of an additional child on loneliness. So yeah, technically negative effect. It's beneficial, so to say. So I couldn't hear completely your question, unfortunately, but I think you mentioned that maybe I should have a look also at the fact that having 2 boys is not exactly the same as 2 girls. And we did that. That doesn't change the result whatsoever. So we chose to present the most parsimonious specification, but the results are. This is one of the robustness checks that we did, and it doesn't make any difference.
You want to use the phone?
Well, the standard error I think is large because we only explain small differences in fertility. I think, like, yeah, there's only 0.1 child that the difference between the 2 groups. That's what I would think. It's a very small part of the variation in number of children that we actually managed to capture with our exogenous instrument. But that was my interpretation of these large confidence intervals. I'm not sure if you agree.
Yeah, coming back to the instrument used, the same-sex sibling instrument is, you say at the end of your presentation that the limitation is that you just focus on a population who have at least 2 children.
Yes.
And I would say that this limitation is even more severe considering the countries you are working on that are particularly low fertility countries.
Mm-hmm.
So I take your point that probably standard error depends on a very small portion of the population you are considering. So again, this could be an argument to consider not to keep this instrument, but consider others that can add some other information related to other portion of the populations.
Yes, I agree that what you highlight is probably, well, as I listed it in the limitations. It's something that is a less strong part of this study that we acknowledge, but we at this moment we don't have a very strong solution for. So we're open for suggestions. I think well, maybe I didn't hear a very concrete suggestion of what we should do. Maybe I missed it, but in case you have, I'm definitely open to look into this.
I take the opportunity that I'm here to ask a question as well. I like very much, sorry to Marco. I like very much the way your study is set up, and I was wondering whether you couldn't introduce, or well, let's say it would be another paper, but also all women who go through ART, so having like, I don't know, taking a starting point, all those who start ART at some point and look at their either happiness or mental health, as you were doing, and then see whether they have, well, whether there is some recovery for them as well in case they stop their process. Because that's a question, what happens after you have had to stop a failed attempt to have a child via ART. So I'm interested in this question as well.
Thank you very much for this comment and suggestion. And unfortunately, using UK data is impossible to know the beginning of the process. Usually, women undergoing medical assisted reproduction spend at least 2 years, I would say, on average, and they have they undergo multiple cycles. So probably we found an effect that is, just an additional effect before becoming pregnant, but there are other negative effects before that. And in the questionnaire, people who become pregnant between 2 consecutive waves are asked to answer this question about the mode of conception, and so we can distinguish people who naturally conceived and people who went through medical assisted reproduction, but we don't know exactly when. But it would be really interesting to see whether a single cycle of treatment has a negative effect during the treatment and then people recover. In this data, we analyzed also, we split the sample for those who had a lack of birth, and we found exactly the same results. So, and I think that controlling for this variable about whether people had a live birth or not, we can say that regardless of the pregnancy outcome, women are able to recover, but we don't have so much power to include interaction and so on. So thank you for this comment.
Any other question? Okay. So, well, thank you very much. Thanks so much.